I know you're out there. I know that you're afraid. You're afraid of us. You're afraid of change. I don't know the future. I didn't come here to tell you how this is going to end. I came here to tell you how it's going to begin. I'm going to hang up this phone, and then I'm going to show these people what you don't want them to see. A world without rules and controls, without borders or boundaries. A world where anything is possible. Where we go from there is a choice I leave to you.
The Krisanne Hall Show.
Any varmint that crosses that lady's path has met its match. Come on!
Rise and shine, liberty-loving patriots. Welcome to the Krisanne Hall Show, where liberty is always first. Liberty over security, principle over party, truth over personalities. This is a teach show and not a talk show, and welcome to Ask Me Anything Wednesday. It is election time, so I am inundated with questions about voters, voting, candidates, that sort of thing. And, you know, it makes it difficult because then we end up answering and asking the same questions over and over again, and I'm not quite sure then how to deal with that, actually. Do we answer them over and over again? I think maybe there's an issue here because we put these posts on my Facebook page and we put these challenges to people to step outside of the box. Are you tired of the status quo? Are you tired of an out-of-control government? Are you tired of seeing our Constitution destroyed? Are you frustrated with the way government operates? Are you beyond frustrated? Well, then the question becomes, why do you keep doing the same things over and over again? I mean, we have over and over questions. What is it that we need to vote for? Who is it that we need to vote for? What is electable? And why is it that we have to stick with parties? And why is it that we can't choose people who are not of the two main parties? I find it interesting. And I'll let you make the judgment on the matter. I find it interesting that when I am teaching the high school, middle school students, and I give them question and answer sessions, I get questions like, what do you think are the greatest threats to our liberty? Do you think in 50 years this country will be the same as it is now? What is the greatest threat to American citizens? I mean, what is the greatest threat we face as Americans to our freedom and our liberty? These are the things that I hear from the young people. But from my generation, I hear, well, if you don't vote for this candidate, then you're just voting for the other side. If you don't vote and stay in this party, then the other party will have power. And that means that, guess what? You voted for the bad guy. Well, the crazy thing is this. When you vote, you're supposed to vote your conscience, not your party. And then when you vote your conscience, party should not matter. I mean, over and over and over again, I see people saying things like on Facebook when I say, you know, we have more than one choice. No, we don't have more than one choice, they say. Because if you don't vote the party, then you vote the other side. No, I am voting my conscience. What you're telling me is you are not. It's very, very strange to me. What are we voting for these days? I want you to sit down and think about that. Many of you have already voted because of early voting. Many of you have already taken the opportunity to exercise your prerogative. But if you have not, let me ask you this question. What are you voting for? Is your vote a vote against someone? Ought not be so. Is your vote for a party platform? Ought not be so. Parties, George Washington warned, would be the death of our republic. I mean, when are we going to see beyond this party-style illusion? When are we going to break free from the chains and bonds that have bound us now for way too long? You know, I'm always teaching the history because that's what I do, right? I teach history. So the question then becomes, what is it that we're willing to repeat? What is it that we're willing to learn from? Why is it so difficult to realize we've been down this path before? And we don't have to repeat these things. Why is it that we think that we're so brandishly intelligent and that we're so brilliantly superior that we have to try to figure out what's going on? We have to try to figure out what we're doing and what we're not doing. Why is it that we can't simply listen to the wisdom of those who came before us? Why? Because they didn't have internet? They didn't have CNN, MSNBC, or Fox? How about George Washington talking about political parties? He says they serve to organize faction, to give it in an artificial and extraordinary force, to put in the place of the delegated will of the nation the will of a party. Often, a small but artful and enterprising minority of the community. And according to the alternate triumphs of different parties, to make the public administration the mirror of the ill-concerted and incongruous projects of faction, rather than the organ of consistent and wholesome plans digested by the common councils and modified by mutual interests. Parties. He's talking about political parties. He says, however, combinations or associations of the above description may now and then answer popular ends, they are likely, in the course of time and things, to become potent engines by which cunning, ambitious, and unprincipled men will be enabled to subvert the power of the people and to usurp for themselves the reins of government, destroying afterwards the very engines which have lifted them to unjust dominion. Can that just digest for a few minutes? When are we going to learn from our young people? When are we going to be learning that our freedom, our liberty, the country that we know is at risk? When are we going to wake up and realize that this party politics is what put us here? Why? Why do we keep maddening on to our own destruction? Operating in the same way over and over and over again. Repeating the same mantras. Voting for the same people. Oh, they have different names. It's a different date. But they're the same combinations and associations. They're the same potent engines which are being driven by cunning, ambitious, and unprincipled men who only want to subvert the power of the people and to usurp for themselves the reign of government. Is this the legacy that we want to pass on to our children? Is this what men and women gave their lives, their fortune, their sacred honor for? So I'm not quite sure where I'm going with today's show, because I'm deeply, deeply disturbed by the blind willingness we are to stay with status quo. I mean, I want to know, when will we become so enslaved that we wake up and recognize it? When will we become so oppressed, not by law, not by the executive branch, but by political parties? I heard Rush Limbaugh yesterday. I actually listened to Rush Limbaugh for the first time in a very long time. I don't listen to talk radio often. And he was talking about how the chairman of the Republican National Committee said, We do not agree with executive amnesty. We will never agree with executive amnesty. It is unconstitutional. It is unlawful. And we will oppose it with every breath. And then I had to laugh because I thought, is Rush going to catch the key here? Rush caught the key. But the interesting thing is, he didn't actually teach you the key. So when we come back after the break, I want to talk to you about what the chairman of the Republican National Committee says about executive amnesty and show you why we're being destroyed by combinations and associations, potent engines, and ambitious, unprincipled men.
Krisanne Hall Show. She's Liberty's lobbyist.
Welcome back to the Krisanne Hall Show. George Washington said combinations and associations of the above description, talking about political parties, may now and then answer popular ends. They are likely in the course of time and things to become potent engines by which cunning, ambitious, and unprincipled men will be enabled to subvert the power of the people and to usurp for themselves the reign of government, destroying afterwards the very engines which have lifted them to unjust dominion. We have placed our political parties in unjust dominion. We have given them control over our entire election process. We have given them control over our minds and our souls. Yes, over your souls. When you hold your nose and you vote the lesser of two evils, you are allowing your soul to choose evil. And that has given them power and dominion over everything. Why do you think they attack those who differ from them so virulently? Why is it that the people who stand up in the name of liberty and stand up in the name of the rights of the people and the rights of the states are attacked by the very party that proclaims itself to be a party of the Constitution? It's all a bunch of lies and smoke and mirrors. They are all unprincipled men. And when I say that word men, of course you understand that I mean that from a mankind perspective and not a gender thing. I am not a feminazi. But Rush was describing what the chairman of the Republican National Committee was saying about the executive amnesty by the president. Oh, we're so against executive amnesty. I want you to know from my dying breath we will oppose executive amnesty. We hate executive amnesty. We will fight it. If you give us a Senate, he says, if you will give us a Senate majority and hold the House majority, we will fight this executive amnesty to our very dying breath. Now, Rush found the key, but he very glossed over it, which was very disturbing to me. You see, the key is executive amnesty. They're not opposed to amnesty. They're opposed to executive amnesty. Why? Because it's not their executive. They were not opposed to executive amnesty when Bush was doing it. Bush was doing it, by the way. I lived it. I know. As a prosecutor, I saw the change from INS to ICE. I talked to the agents that said, sorry, Krisanne, we can't help you with your convicted criminals who are illegal aliens anymore. We're not allowed to deport them. And this happened during George Bush. So my first question is, George Bush had a Republican president, a Republican House, a Republican Senate. How did that help us with amnesty? Well, the only thing that it helped us with amnesty was realizing we didn't even know it was going on because nobody questioned it. You see, because we are subject to the rule and reign of two political parties, we need a fractured government. We need a one-house party and a one-house Senate, a one-party Senate. We need that party fractionalization because when we do not have that, then we just, don't believe anything, right? George Bush did this, George Bush did that. Oh, look, it is all George Bush's fault. So the other party always blaming it on George Bush. Well, let me tell you something. George Bush was not the friend to liberty that you think he is. George Bush gave us the Patriot Act and warrantless searches. Those things that Edward Snowden is talking about came from George Bush. 49,000 warrantless searches on U.S. citizens and legal resident aliens under George Bush. Not Al-Qaeda terrorists. Under George Bush, we got massive spending. Under George Bush, we got amnesty. Under George Bush, we paid to have our food stamps advertised in Mexico. But we didn't know about it because we had a Republican House, Republican Senate, Republican President, and nobody questioned it. So we get a Republican Senate this time. Oh, we'll oppose amnesty because they know they're likely going to get a Democrat president because they don't have anybody they're going to put up that's going to win. They know that. I don't think they want to. They're not going to defeat amnesty. They're going to defeat executive amnesty. No, they're just going to hurry up and push their legislative amnesty so that they can circumvent the need for an executive amnesty. There's more dynamics to this than we're not done yet.
My mama always said I was born for this, and some people wouldn't like that I was different. It never really mattered how hard it would be, cause she filled me with love and the strength to lead. She said, if you were gonna be a flame, then we're gonna light a bonfire. Let it burn, let it burn. Gonna burn something down if you get it our way.
The Krisanne Hall Show. She's Liberty's lobbyist.
So, again, I wonder, what are we concerned about? We are more conservative about parties than we are about liberty. I want to know that. We are more conservative about parties than we are about liberty. Why? Why is it that when you say something about a Republican candidate within our conservative circles, even when it's true, you're absolutely viciously attacked? But if you say something about liberty, oh, well, you get 37 likes and people don't share and there's no comments. Why are we more conservative about parties than we are about liberty? This question today, as we do this theme of Ask Me Anything Wednesday about politics and about voting, as we are less than a week from Election Day. Here's the theme. What are you voting for? I wonder, what is it going to take for the Republicans to wake up? The chairman of the Republican National Committee says, if you give us a Republican Senate and we keep the Republican House, we will do everything that we can to fight executive amnesty. Do you know the irony of that is they didn't fight executive amnesty when George Bush was president, when they had a House and a Senate. But do you know what the other irony is this? They don't need the Senate to fight executive amnesty. They already have a Republican House. They have a Republican majority in the House. And with a Republican majority in the House, they can defund anything that the president is doing. Go read Article 1, Section 7. You go ask them. They know this. I heard Michelle Bachmann say this. I have played this clip on my show. Michelle Bachmann saying, we have the power of the purse. Why aren't we using it? They know they can defund this stuff. They know all they need is the majority in the House to do it. They could defund amnesty right now. All of your tax dollars being used to ship illegal aliens across this country, all these tax dollars being used to house illegal aliens across this country, paying people unreasonable amounts of money to house illegal aliens, violating federal law. If your Republican Party actually hated that as much as they want you to believe during this election term, so you will vote against the Democrats, they hated it that much, they'd have already defunded it. The minute we saw the buses, the Congress would have stepped up and said, no. We are pulling the funds for all these buses right now. Park them because you're not paying for them. But why do they get away with telling these lies? Why do they get away with that? Because we are more conservative about parties and politicians than we are about liberty. And our young people are concerned about their liberty. They're absolutely concerned. I want to know, when are the Republicans going to wake up? Because it appears to me that the Democrats are beginning to wake up. Yes, the Democrats are beginning to wake up. I say, and I'm going to shock some of you, I say praise God for Barack Obama. Praise God for Barack Obama. Praise God for a man in the White House who was elected because of racism. Praise God for that. Because now the people of color, the black people in this country, are waking up to the realizing that they have been enslaved by their own people. Because you see, now that we have a black man as a president, nothing is changing. It's getting worse. And now the black people are saying, look, this is crazy. We are being enslaved by our own people. Elbert Gilroy, I'm going to play this entire clip for you. Elbert Gilroy says black people are just being used by limousine liberals. I'm going to play in its Rush played pieces of this yesterday. I'm going to play these things in their entirety because you need to hear them. Because I'm wondering, now that the Democrats are waking up, when will the Republicans wake up and realize that you are being enslaved by your own party? Enslaved, I'm telling you, enslaved. So let's hear this.
In 2008, 95% of black folk in North Carolina voted for Kay Hagan. The Democrats have created the illusion that they are the salvation of the black community. But who among us have they saved? In North Carolina, the poverty rate for blacks has risen to 34%. You see, black people are just being used by limousine liberals who have become our new overseers. We've only traded one plantation for another. You are not Kay Hagan's cause, and you're certainly not her charity. You are just a vote. She has stepped off your backs to fame and fortune and left you behind on food stamps, deprived of the American dream, 50 years of this so-called great society has nearly destroyed the black community. But now we have a chance to return the favor. It has come time to send Kay Hagan home.
Our America Inc. is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Can you believe that? The Democrats are responsible for moving us to a brand new plantation. My dear, dear friends, like Franz Cabral and K. Carl Smith, have been trying to reach the black community now for years, preaching and teaching this. This must be a victory for them. What a day of redemption for them. To hear things like this, political ads like this, people waking up. Praise God for men who have stood and said, it's time to wake up. Your enslavers think that you want them to be your friends. It's time to stop it. My question is, when will the Republicans wake up like this? When will the Republicans wake up and realize that you are being enslaved by unscrupulous men? I want to play this next one for you while we have time, because this is just absolutely brilliant. And you need to hear the entire thing. It's 4 minutes, but you've got to hear the entire thing.
Black folks is in an abusive black leadership relationship.
We have to send a message. This is the time for us to send a message.
We always talking about what the Republicans ain't done for us or what they will do to hurt us. My life has been hurt by Democrats.
And we got in our mind that we always got to keep voting Democrat. You know,
look and see in your community, who are the real oppressors in our community? They always talk about black on black crime. And when you hear the word black on black crime, the first thing you think of is a black man robbing you, a black man breaking in your house. And that is a black on black crime. But let's take it one step further. There's a black on black crime down in City Hall. There's a black on black crime down in all the state capitals in America, where black folks are voting against our interests, where black folks are voting and making us, we're getting poor and poor, and other groups are getting richer and richer.
Everywhere you go, there's poverty in black areas.
This lot where I stand at right now, Ida B. Wells, public housing residents to live at. Most of the people are homeless, living in the street. And it's because of you, Mr. President.
In Detroit, where your leaders at? There's no white folks running Detroit, cutting water on black folks in Detroit. Them black folks running that city. Ain't no white folks doing that. Them black folks going along with that. Everything's happening in our community is black leadership doing this.
Our children know that if the Democrats have not done anything for us as of yet, why should they even go out and vote? What agenda is on the table that's going to change their life?
The only thing they're offering the black community is abortion on demand. This is what the president asking for us to vote for.
Now he wants to have this conversation about minimum wage raise because he knows that this is the way to get a lot of the poor people's attention. But to hell with his minimum wage raise. We don't have any jobs. A minimum wage raise for what?
They're not pushing a black agenda. They're not pushing a family agenda. They're pushing a neoliberal agenda.
Across this city, in these major democratic cities, this is what it looks like.
How can the same process happen over and over again and nobody got nothing, can't do nothing about it?
Black leadership is abusing us. The Democratic Party is abusing us.
It's the same way in every black community across the country.
And they force us into a life of welfare. We don't want no welfare. We want opportunities to go to work. We want opportunities to own business. They bailed out all of the major banks and these big investors, but left the people starving.
There are no tea parties in your city.
We don't have those people. We have a major democratic machine, and the majority of them, they look like me. These are the people who make sure we get nothing, but then turn around and have us to vote for them again.
They only come around when it's time for elections. When they think they can give you a toy or give you a turkey or something, and then everything is good.
Hundreds of millions of dollars are coming down from the federal government. But the money is going to all these special interest groups. My brother's keeper went to his friends. This whole corrupt democratic system that gobbles up all the dollars and starves the people out. Can you all look around your community and see any change that have come about with these hundreds of billions of dollars that have come through our cities? No, you cannot. What we do see is our elected officials riding around in new cars, and they have new homes.
When our people don't have jobs in our communities, when we don't have any vital resources, when all the deals been cut, and all our people are left out, this is where we end up.
And we got the most important thing that we can stop all this. Everybody got to vote. And if you use your vote wisely, you can stop a lot of this stuff.
You can stop a lot of this stuff if you use your vote wisely. Do you know what they're calling? They're calling to break free from the bonds and chains of political party slavery. Break free. And I want to make that call to the Republicans as well. Break free. You will never know how beautiful freedom is until you vote your conscience instead of your party. When are we going to realize, America, that we have a responsibility to our children to be more conservative of liberty than we are of our political politicians? It's time to protect liberty and not parties.
The Krisanne Hall Show. She's Liberty's lobbyist. Krisanne Hall Show. She's Liberty's lobbyist.
Free your mind and the rest will follow. Remember that song from the 80s? Be colorblind, don't be so shallow. Free your mind. Free your mind. And the rest will follow. Republicans. I am so sick to death of hearing people say, a vote for the other guy is a vote for the wrong party. If you vote third party, you just throw your vote away. No, I'm sorry. When you vote evil, when you vote something that you don't believe in, that is throwing your vote away. Voting your conscience is not throwing your vote away. Voting your conscience is being true to yourself and to your principles. And when are we going to start being true to ourselves and our principles and stop being so enslaved by parties? I want to know. John Quincy Adams said this. Let me start over. John Quincy Adams says this. Always vote for principle, though you may vote alone, and you may cherish the sweetest reflection that your vote is never lost. I just want to repeat that again. Always vote for principle, though you may vote alone, and you may cherish the sweetest reflection that your vote is never lost. But when you vote for a candidate because he's electable, because you think that he's the only one that can win, your vote is truly lost. Because you're voting things that are not principle, and those things are burned away. Absolutely burned away. No, see, we have been brainwashed into thinking that we're voting against people for so long that we think that we vote for third party, then we're voting against the Republican and for the the Democrat, hey, that just occurred to me. That is just such a wicked, wicked campism, such a wicked brainwashing. All our political ads. We listened to a political ad the other day for our incumbent governor, Rick Scott. What will Rick Scott do, this ad said, and then spent the next 35 seconds talking about Charlie Crist, his opponent. What will Rick Scott do, they say, and then they talked about all of the corruption that Charlie Crist did. Are we supposed to then assume that because the first question is, what will Rick Scott do, and then we hear about all the corruption that Charlie Crist was engaged in when he was governor, we're supposed to believe now that Rick Scott will engage in the same corruption? Because that was the question, what will Rick Scott do? And then we heard about all the bad stuff that Charlie Crist did when he was governor. Because this is the brainwash. It's my party, your party, this side, that side, campism, tribalism. It's a disease. It is absolutely a disease. And I need to know, when are you going to break free? When are you going to realize that liberty is more important than security? Principles are more important than party. And truth is a whole lot more relevant than your favorite personality. You see, we're not voting against people. We're voting for principles. Voting for principles, not against people. So go ahead, vote third party. Do it. Vote no party. Do it. You must start voting your principles, or we will have status quo forever, and we will be enslaved forever by the very people George Washington warned us about. The unreasonable people are the people who change the world. The lemmings just change their geography from cliff to valley floor. Don't be a lemming. Preserve liberty. God bless.